everybody, it's Kayla. I'm so glad to be able to be sharing something with you guys today. I miss you guys so much. I hope to be able to see your faces sometime in the near future. I hope you guys are doing as well as you can be during this time of quarantine, coming up with creative ideas to keep busy. But I was told to work on a devo and share it with you guys, so today I will be doing exactly that. I will be going over Jeremiah 32, verses 6 through 44 now. I know it's a really long passage. I'm not going to read all of it, but I will explain some pieces before the part that I want to touch on. So this is a story about Jeremiah and God talking to Jeremiah. God tells Jeremiah to buy this plot of land, which doesn't seem that big of a deal, but what's important is that the Israelites are about to be taken over by a different group. And so the fact that that Jeremiah is asked to buy this plot of land before he is going to be taken over, like, there's no point in that. You're not going to be able to make profit off of that. And so it's kind of a weird situation, but God tells Jeremiah to do it, so Jeremiah does it. So verses 6 through 10 talk about the purchase of that and like everything that goes in that. And then later it tells that that Jeremiah is praying to God. He's kind of a little confused as to like why he bought this land, because again, there's not really a point when you're not going to be there. And so then later God explains all of it, and God responds and tells him everything and the reason why. And so that's kind of what I wanted to touch on, because now God explains in verses 36 through 44 what he will do. And so it's God's promises. So, I mean, if you spent a big chunk of time talking about this, and we're pretty sure that it's important. So some of the promises that God tells Jeremiah, which don't necessarily apply to us today, just because of the situation they're in, but I will touch on that later. So he says that I will gather them out of the lands, talking about the Israelites, and I will bring them back to this place and make them dwell in safety. I will be their God. I will give them one heart and one way. I will make an everlasting covenant. I will not turn away from them, and I will put the fear of me in their hearts. I will rejoice over them to do them good, and will faithfully plant them in this land with all my heart and all of my soul. I am going to bring on them all the good. I will restore their fortunes. So one thing that I wanted to touch on was that God, in just a few verses, talks about these I will statements. He says I will 13 times in those few verses, which is pretty important. If God is saying this phrase over and over, it's kind of something that he wants us to see, that this is his promise and he will accomplish that and he will fulfill it. So some of the I will statements that apply to us today are that he will bring us home. Now that's kind of different, because for the Israelites it just means that they will be brought back to where they're supposed to be, and they are supposed to trust God with that, which is kind of hard in a time where you're about to be away from your home for a while, and to be promised that you will be brought back home is something that's a little hard to trust in that time. But it's kind of applicable to us today in the way of we're kind of in this waiting period, and we don't know when things will go back to normal. That's something that I have struggled with for sure, because it's my last year in high school and it's not ending the way I thought it would. I was thinking that I would have a prom, a senior trip, a graduation, even those things are still up in the air because of everything. So that's something that, as far as how the Israelites felt, we can connect to that, because we don't know when they're going to be normal for us again. So another thing is that he gives us a new heart. And then the last thing I want to touch on that God promises us is a guaranteed perseverance. And that's super important during this time, I feel like, because we're all in a waiting period, a limbo of when will my parents be able to go back to work? When will I be able to go back to school? Will I be able to see those people again? And so that's something that can be discouraging and hard to sit down and accept, but that's something that God promises, to give us a guaranteed perseverance if we ask him. And so this week is Holy Week, which means that Easter is on Sunday. And so I think that now is a better time than ever to remember the sacrifice that Jesus himself made for us, because through him we get those promises that God has promised. So kind of back to Jeremiah buying the land, which seems kind of irrelevant, but what God's plan here was for the Israelites to have an object lesson to see his promises. This is something that they could physically see and physically understand over something that they can't. And God's working in so many mysterious ways, but they are able to see that through the land, a simple piece of land that Jeremiah bought. So it kind of also shows that even through trial and hardship, God's promises are still true. These hard times are temporary, but God's promises are always everlasting. So I hope that you guys will be able to dwell on that this week as we reflect on Holy Week and everything going on. I miss you guys again and can't wait to see you guys sometime soon. Have the bestest Easter, and yeah, love you.